Welcome, dear friend, and thank you for choosing this quiet corner to rest for a while. The story you are about to hear was crafted as a gentle sanctuary, a soft place for your mind to settle, in the hope that it may help you find gentle contentment and drift peacefully toward sleep. If this tale brings you comfort, a simple like is a kindness much appreciated, and we would be so glad to hear your thoughts in a comment when you awaken, after you have subscribed to find your way back to this calm place again. Tonight, we will be visiting the gentle marches, a hidden land where the hills are soft as down and the air is filled with a soothing, quiet hum. Here we shall walk on yielding paths lit by the warm, pulsing glow of ether moss and gaze into the pools of quiet reflection. Step into this world of deep tranquility, a geography of peace designed to offer you respite and guide you toward the gentlest of dreams. Chapter 1. The Unassuming Gate. It is a peculiar truth that the most wondrous places are often found not at the end of a grand quest, but at the edge of a quiet afternoon when one is simply looking for a place to rest. This is how Silas, a cartographer of forgotten ways, found the gate. It was fashioned from old silvered wood, so entwined with patient ivy that it seemed less a human construction and more a natural part of the hedge. There was a quietness about it, a deep and abiding hush that seemed to pull the sounds of the wider world away, leaving only the soft hum of bees and the gentle rustle of leaves. The air around the simple latch felt warmer, carrying a faint, clean scent like freshly turned earth after a kind rain. He placed a hand upon the wood, feeling its smooth, worn texture beneath his palm, a surface polished by countless seasons of sun and soft showers. There was a subtle vibration in it, a thrum so low and steady it was more a feeling than a sound, like the contented purr of a sleeping animal. It was an invitation, offered with all the simple sincerity of a held-out hand. With a gentle push, the gate swung inward without a sound, opening onto a path that was lost in shadow and soft green light. The moment he stepped across the threshold, a profound and welcoming silence enveloped him, and the world he had known felt like a distant, half-remembered dream. The path was made of dark, rich soil, so soft and yielding that his footsteps made no sound at all. It was like walking on a bed of deep moss, each step cushioned and held. On either side, groves of slender trees with bark like smooth silver reached up into a canopy that filtered the afternoon light into a gentle golden glow. A soft, clean scent filled the air here, a comforting perfume of chamomile and something warm, like linens dried in a summer sun. The air itself felt different, thick, with a tangible peace, caressing his skin with the soft weight of a woolen blanket. He walked for what felt like a very long and very short time, for time seemed to move differently here, measured not in minutes, but in the slow, easy rhythm of his own breathing. The path meandered gently, showing no hurry to arrive anywhere at all, which suited Silas perfectly. He was not seeking a destination, only a deepening of this extraordinary calm. He noticed small cup-shaped flowers growing close to the ground, their petals a pale, creamy white, and from them seemed to emanate the faintest, most delicate hum, a sound that settled deep within his chest. As the golden light began to deepen into the softer hues of twilight, the path opened into a small clearing. Nestled in the center was a cottage, small and simple, with walls of pale smooth wood and a roof of thick living turf from which tiny star-like flowers grew. It looked as if it had not been built upon the land but had grown from it, a natural and peaceful part of the landscape. A thin curl of smoke rose from its clay chimney, a soft gray ribbon against the deepening sky, carrying the wholesome scent of a wood fire burning low. The door of the cottage was slightly ajar, a sliver of warm, flickering light spilling out onto the soft earth. It was another gentle invitation, a promise of shelter and simple comfort. As Silas approached, he saw that from the bark of the trees surrounding the clearing, a soft golden luminescence was beginning to emerge. It came from patches of a silken moss that clung to the silver trunks, and it pulsed with a slow rhythmic beat, like a tranquil heart. The entire clearing was being bathed in this living, breathing light. He paused at the threshold, looking into the single simple room. A small hearth held embers that glowed with a warm orange light, and a plain wooden chair was drawn up close to it. A bed with a thick, quilted cover stood against one wall, looking deeply inviting. There was no one inside, yet it did not feel empty. It felt replete with peace, a space that was simply waiting to offer comfort to a weary traveler. Silas stepped inside, and the gentle warmth of the cottage enveloped him completely. He felt a long-held tension in his shoulders begin to dissolve, a weariness from his travels that he had carried for so long he had forgotten it was there. He closed the door, its simple wooden latch clicking into place with a soft, satisfying sound. Outside, the world of the gentle marches glowed with its soft, living light, and inside, the embers of the hearth pulsed with a steady warmth. And here, surrounded by a peace so profound it felt like a substance, Silas knew he had found a safe and quiet haven. Chapter 2. The Hills of Contentment. Silas awoke to a light unlike any he had ever known. It was not the sharp, clear light of morning, but a soft, honey-colored glow that filtered through the cottage's single window, seeming to possess a gentle liquid quality. The air he drew in was cool and clean, carrying that same comforting scent of chamomile and warm earth. He felt a sense of restfulness so deep and complete that it was as if he had been sleeping for 100 years. Pushing aside the soft, heavy quilt, he rose and opened the door, stepping out into the full embrace of the gentle marches. The world was bathed in that same golden light, which seemed to emanate not just from the sky, but from the very air itself. Before him, the landscape rolled away in a series of low, gentle hills, all of them covered in a thick carpet of grass so vibrant and soft it looked like deep green down. There were no sharp angles here, no jagged peaks or sudden drops. Every curve of the land was smooth and flowing, as if shaped by a soft and loving hand over countless peaceful ages. A languid zephyr drifted through the air, too gentle to be called a wind, carrying with it the low resonant hum of the land itself. He began to walk, his bare feet sinking slightly into the cushioned earth. The sensation was wonderful, the ground yielding to his weight with a soft sigh, making walking feel less like an effort and more like a slow, floating dance. He crested the first low hill and saw the landscape stretched out before him, a serene topography of contentment. Groves of the same silver-barked trees dotted the hillsides, their leaves rustling with a sound like soft silk. Clinging to their trunks were thick patches of the ether moss, which, even in the daylight, held a faint internal luminescence. It was this moss that drew his attention. He approached one of the trees and reached out a hand to touch the strange glowing flora. The texture was like the finest, driest silk, cool and soft beneath his fingertips. As he watched, he could see the light within it pulse, a slow, rhythmic brightening and softening that matched the peaceful cadence of his own heart. It was a living light, a gentle and beautiful magic that was woven into the very fabric of this place. He felt a sense of innocent wonder, the kind a child feels upon discovering a secret, beautiful thing. Following a barely there path that wound between the hills, he came upon a small, cultivated clearing. Here, the grass gave way to neat rows of dark, fertile earth, from which grew all manner of wonderful plants. Some had broad, dark green leaves, while others sprouted in delicate spirals, and among them grew tall stalks, topped with the same creamy white bell-shaped flowers he had seen the day before. From them came the source of the land's gentle hum, a sound that was both peaceful and full of a quiet, living energy. In the center of the garden, a figure was bent over a patch of herbs, tending to them with slow, deliberate movements. It was a woman with long silver hair braided down her back, wearing a simple tunic of undyed linen. She looked up as Silas approached, and her face, lined with the gentle marks of time and countless smiles, broke into a look of quiet welcome. This was Nora. She did not speak, for words felt unnecessary in the profound quiet of the marches. Instead, she straightened up, wiping her hands on her tunic, and gestured toward a small wooden bench near a bed of the humming flowers. Silas sat, feeling no need to explain his presence. He was simply here, and that was enough. Nora went into a small hut at the edge of the garden and returned a few moments later with 2 steaming ceramic mugs. She handed one to him, and the warmth seeped pleasantly into his hands. The liquid was a pale golden color, and it smelled of mint and honey and the sweet perfume of the flowers around them. He took a sip, and the warm, fragrant tea flowed through him, a comforting balm that seemed to loosen every last knot of worry. They sat together in a companionable silence, listening to the soft hum of the murmuring flora and watching the gentle light shift across the hills. It was an interaction of profound simplicity, a shared moment of being that required nothing more than their quiet presence. A small, contented smile touched Nora's lips as she gazed at her garden, and Silas felt that same sense of deep contentment settle within himself. In the warm golden light of the gentle marches, surrounded by the soft hum of growing things, he felt he had truly come home. Chapter 3. The Pools of Quiet Reflection. After a time, Nora rose from the bench and gave Silas a small, encouraging nod, her eyes indicating a faint path that led away from her garden and down into a shallow, sheltered vale. Her gesture was gentle and clear, an invitation to discover another of the march's quiet secrets. Silas followed the path, which was flanked by tall ferns whose fronds curled in perfect, peaceful spirals. The air grew cooler here and damper, carrying the fresh, clean scent of wet earth and deep shade. The ever-present hum of the land softened to a near inaudible murmur, as if the vale itself were holding its breath. The path ended at the edge of a body of water, the first of several nestled in the low-lying basin. These were the pools of quiet reflection. They were not large, each one perhaps the size of a spacious room, and their edges were lined with the same soft, downy grass that covered the hills. What was most remarkable was the water itself. It was perfectly unnaturally still, its surface a flawless expanse of what looked like polished obsidian. There was no reflection of the silver-barked trees that stood nearby, nor of the pale sky above. The surface absorbed the light, revealing nothing of the world outside of it. Silas knelt at the edge of the nearest pool, captivated by its profound and absolute stillness. It felt like gazing into a piece of fallen night sky, a pocket of pure, silent darkness. He felt a deep sense of peace emanating from it, a quietude so complete it seemed to draw the very thoughts from his mind, leaving a welcome and gentle emptiness. He sat there for a long time, simply looking into the pool's dark, smooth face, his own mind becoming as still and untroubled as the water before him. Then, as he watched, something began to happen in the depths. A single point of soft, violet light bloomed into existence far below the surface. It swirled gently, like a drop of ink in clear water, before another light, this one a pale, gentle blue, emerged beside it. They danced together in a slow, hypnotic ballet, weaving ribbons of soft color through the darkness. These were not reflections of anything, but manifestations from within the pool itself, a visual representation of pure, untroubled thought, of serene and gentle contemplation. Hesitantly, Silas reached out and dipped his fingers into the water. It was cool to the touch, and its texture was impossibly smooth, like liquid silk. As his skin made contact with the surface, a remarkable sensation spread through his arm and then his entire body. It was a feeling of profound weightlessness, as if the water had not only accepted his touch, but had also lifted a great and unknown burden from him. All the residual weariness of his old life, the subtle tensions he carried in his posture and his spirit, seemed to dissolve into the cool, dark water. He drew his hand back, watching the soft, colored lights continue their languid dance in the depths. The feeling of quietude intensified, settling deep within his bones. The pool seemed to have absorbed his latent anxieties, his half-formed worries and cluttered thoughts, leaving in their place a clean, clear, and spacious calm. It was a form of gentle magic, a restorative power that did not command or dazzle, but simply offered a chance to release and to be still, It was the physical embodiment of a quiet mind. He moved to the next pool, and then the one after that, finding that each held its own unique and gentle patterns. One swirled with the soft golds and creams of a peaceful memory, while another bloomed with the deep, trusting green of a growing thing. He spent the rest of the afternoon there in the vale, moving slowly from one pool to the next, not seeking answers or visions, but simply immersing himself in the profound silence they offered. When he finally walked back up the path toward the glowing hills, the world seemed both the same and entirely new. The hum of the flora felt more harmonious, the golden light of the ether moss more welcoming. He felt lighter, as if he had set down a heavy pack he had been carrying his whole life. The quiet of the pools had not left him at the water's edge. He carried it with him, a deep, still reservoir of peace that now resided at the very center of his being. Chapter 4. The Language of a Shared Stillness. The days in the gentle marches unfolded not in a sequence of events, but in a slow, continuous flow of peaceful moments. Silas found a gentle rhythm that was guided by the light and the land's soft hum. He would wake with the pale golden dawn, walk the yielding hills as the mists gently cleared, and spend his afternoons near Nora's garden, where the air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and warm earth. There was no need for plans, no sense of urgency to do or see anything. The sole activity was to simply be present, and in that, there was a profound contentment. His time with Nora was a lesson in a language spoken without words. They communicated through simple, shared gestures. When she would find a perfectly ripe sunberry, she would offer it to him with a quiet smile, and its sweet, warm juice was a conversation in itself. When Silas noticed a rare spiral-fronted fern he had not seen before, he would simply nod towards it, and Nora's answering nod was a shared acknowledgement of its humble beauty. Their companionship was woven from these threads of mutual appreciation for the small, gentle wonders around them. One afternoon, a soft, gentle rain began to fall. The drops were large and slow, landing on the broad leaves of Nora's plants with a quiet, percussive patter. The scent of the air grew richer, a deep perfume of damp soil and watered greenery. Nora gestured for Silas to join her in her small hut, a cozy space that smelled of dried herbs and wood smoke. From a warm alcove near her hearth, she retrieved a loaf of bread, its crust a deep, comforting brown. She broke it in half, the sound soft and wholesome, and handed a piece to him. The bread was still warm, its texture soft and yielding. He took a bite, and the simple nutty flavor filled his mouth. It was the most delicious thing he had ever tasted, for it seemed to be made not just of flour and water, but of the very essence of this peaceful place. They ate their bread in comfortable silence, listening to the gentle drumming of the rain on the turf roof. The sound was deeply soothing, a natural lullaby that insulated them in their warm, dry shelter. The gentle weight of the wholesome food settled in his stomach, a grounding and deeply satisfying feeling. Later, as the rain subsided and the evening light began to pulse from the ether moss outside, Nora retrieved a soft woolen blanket from a chest. It was the color of heather and felt wonderfully soft and heavy in his hands. She draped it over his shoulders, a simple, nurturing gesture of comfort and care. The gentle weight was instantly calming, a physical sensation of being safe and looked after. He felt the last vestiges of any inner chill melt away under its warmth, replaced by a deep and abiding sense of security. He sat with the blanket around him, watching the fire in Nora's small hearth crackle and pop with soft, contented sounds. The firelight danced on her serene face, highlighting the kindness in her eyes. There was a profound peace in this shared stillness, an understanding that passed between them that was deeper than any spoken word. It was an acceptance of the present moment in all its simple perfection. His thoughts, once a busy landscape of their own, had quieted to a gentle murmur, harmonizing with the soft hum of the rain-washed world outside. As he prepared to walk the short distance back to his own cottage, Nora touched his arm gently. For the first time she spoke, her voice as soft as the rustling leaves of the silver-barked trees. "The quiet suits you," she said, and it was not a question or a judgment, but a simple, warm observation. Silas nodded, a feeling of gratitude welling up inside him. He felt seen, not for what he did or where he had been, but for the peaceful stillness he was becoming. He walked back through the glowing twilight, the heavy blanket still wrapped around him, its warmth a constant, comforting presence. The air was cool and clean after the rain, and the ether moss pulsed with a bright, steady glow. He breathed in deeply, the air filling his lungs without effort, each breath feeling full and complete. In the soft light of the glowing moss and the warmth of a shared simple kindness, he felt a peace so complete it was like a soft, steady flame burning brightly and calmly in the center of his chest. Chapter 5. A Geography of Peace. From the gentle crest of a hill near his cottage, Silas watched the dawn. In the gentle marches, the sun did not rise with triumphant glory, but rather unfolded itself slowly, as if waking from a long and pleasant dream. The deep indigo of the night sky softened first to a pale violet, then to a soft, rosy blush that spread gently across the horizon. The light eased its way into the world, touching the tops of the silver-barked trees and illuminating the soft dew that clung to every blade of the downy grass, making the hillsides shimmer with a quiet, pearlescent light. The landscape awakened with a collective, contented sigh. He stood there, wrapped in Nora's soft blanket, and felt the first warm rays of the sun touch his face. The warmth was like a gentle hand, a reassuring presence that promised another day of profound and simple peace. He felt no desire to be anywhere else, no urge to continue a journey or to seek a new horizon. His lifelong search for the world's quietest corners had ended here, for he had discovered that the ultimate destination was not a place on a map, but a state of being. The gentle marches were not just a location, they were a feeling, made manifest in soft earth and glowing moss. He breathed in the cool morning air, and his breath was easy and deep. He could feel the gentle hum of the murmuring flora beginning its daily chorus in the distance, a sound that now felt as familiar and comforting as his own heartbeat. He had learned the topography of this place by heart, the soft curve of the hills of contentment, the sheltered silence of the vale that held the pools of quiet reflection, the warm, nurturing heart of Nora's garden. And in learning the geography of the land, he had come to understand the landscape of his own mind. A feeling of profound restoration flowed through him. It was a gentle, quiet power, a sense of his spirit having been smoothed out, all its creased and worried corners made plain. He felt a deep sense of belonging, not just to this land, but to himself. The peace of the marshes was now a part of him, a steady, quiet presence he would carry always. It was a geography of peace, mapped onto his very soul, its gentle hills and still pools, a permanent part of his inner world. He turned and began to walk back toward the small cottage, his steps slow and unhurried. The day stretched before him, holding nothing more than the promise of its own gentle unfolding moments. The taste of cool water, the feeling of soft grass underfoot, the sight of the light shifting through the trees, the sound of the world humming its peaceful tune, and that, he knew with a deep and certain calm, was more than enough. It was everything. The cottage door was open, waiting. The scent of warm bread was already drifting from the direction of Nora's garden, a gentle invitation to share another simple, perfect morning. Silas smiled, a soft, easy expression of pure contentment. He had arrived here as a traveler, a mapper of external places. He would remain as a quiet resident, a cartographer of inner calm, forever at home in the soft, green, and gentle landscape of a peaceful mind. And as the sun climbed higher, bathing the world in its warm and loving light, he felt the land and his spirit breathe a single harmonious sigh of pure, untroubled peace.